Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, our
Oh,
listeners. Hello, our friends.
yeah, it's it's a beautiful morning. Sunny here in South Florida and totally cacao related. I'm getting excited because, in the wintertime, I like to do my cacao ceremonies inside the sweat lodge. No, we don't sweat in there with the cacao, but, it's a really sacred, special place with lots of really cool energy. And so I put the fairy lights in there. I have crystals in there. And
Oh,
in the center where normally the hot rocks go, I put crystals and candles. And of course, we have a fire in the fire pit. And it just makes it's a lot of work to set it up, but it is such an extra special magical experience in there. And so when I feel those temperatures start to drop out there, I get excited because I'm like, maybe it'll be cool enough to do cacao in the lodge.
that's a
So it really is. And like for those that experienced it last year, like they're excited too because they know how cool it is.
and taking advantage of those wonderful little temperature drops. We are definitely in fire but you need a blanket also season. This morning it was like 40 and during the day it's definitely like dress in layers season, so it's 40 super early in the morning. By noon you're peeling everything off into a t-shirt, but then like if you walk under a tree and you're in the shade, it's like, whoop, that was a little cold. So maybe a wrap. So anyway, I have like 50 pieces of clothing in my vehicle at any time ready to go. But it does make for some really nice cozy by the fire type evenings. I just got to watch the wind and things like that. God, one of my biggest fears is like burning down the entire, like starting a forest fire. Like that's one of my biggest fears. Is like, okay, let's contain it. Let's be careful with it. Let's watch it. And everybody's like, you're fine. Calm down. I'm like, man. And then someone will be like, oh, I dropped a cigarette and burned down half of California. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm always teetering between the two. But
Safety, the safety is important, and you also don't want to take away your enjoyment of the moment by being overly stressed out by it.
that's why I usually try and leave it to some sort of fire master, right? Like my partner's really good at this, and specifically locals. I trust them to know when the weather is right and when it's not right. It's those little embers that fly up in the air, and I'm like, well, how do you know where they're going to land? And we have a lot of dry leaves, and so anyway, I don't know that I'll ever really understand it myself without taking a class, but yeah, I'm a big school nerd. I like going to the class. I like hearing the whole story. That's how I like it. So
Yes. So, guess what I did on Saturday?
I can only imagine. What'd you do?
I drove up to Sebastian to check out the retreat center.
Oh, awesome. How was it?
Yes. It was funny, like after, because we were in Alohi in the mountains, and like the mountains have like a certain, I don't know. I mean, you live there now, so I don't know. They're probably at one point just going to become like norm to you. But when you're living here in the flatlands, like elevation just like does something special.
Yeah.
So, it was a little weird because I like had that Alohi on my mind, and like I got there and it was like flat because it's Florida. And I had that like it
Recalibrate.
was weird because it was just like this little moment of like, oh yeah, it's not going to be like a Lowy. But it is really special land. Like the energy of that land is phenomenal. um all the different greenery, like I was envisioning your forest therapy walk that you'll take us on. some really, and so much diversity. And so really looking forward to all the fun stuff that we're going to have. Yes, they had multiple fire pits up there, so we'll definitely have some fire going while we're there. And just all different kinds of neat little nooks and crannies. And so just having the visions of how this is all going to play out for us. So yeah, that was fun and exciting. And the cat's definitely trying to be on the show today. Excuse me, buddy.
Oh my goodness. How long of a drive was it, out of curiosity?
Yeah, 2 hours from my place.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Very, very cool. I'm super excited about it. I love all the different elements, and I love all the different, I don't think there is a retreat that can't do without a fire ceremony. I love spending time around a fire, and I don't think there's a retreat that doesn't benefit from having water as part of it. Right. So no matter what our theme is or what we're trying to break through or next level or whatever it might be, paying attention to the elements is always such a great addition to it. I love it.
There is a little waterfall there too.
Baby waterfall.
It's very little compared to what we had at Alohi, but there was a little tiny waterfall. So
you mentioned about the mountains and it getting boring, and I don't know, maybe if I had been born and raised here, then maybe because I do find the ocean okay, I get it, it's majestic, right? Whatever. I do, that is true, I do feel that. But it's interesting because when I meet folks that were born and raised here, they still think the mountains are the coolest thing in the world. You know what I mean? They're still in love with the mountains. And I suppose I know plenty of people that are born and raised South Florida and the Caribbean that they still love the ocean, So for me, I doubt it'll get old. But we'll see. Check in with me in 20 years. Maybe I will have driving through the top of the mountain. Now, when I have clients that want to go on location, I have to ask extra questions okay, are we going to the top of a mountain? And if so, are there any terrifying switchbacks? Do I need 4x4? Should we ride together? What, I have to ask still a lot of questions. I'm not ready to be out there on my own. That's for sure. But
it's coming.
It's okay. There's plenty of things I never really quite became an expert on, and it's okay, right? Parallel parking, it's okay. If I go the next 40 years and die without ever really mastering parallel parking, it's okay. I'll find a way.
Since you brought up parallel parking, I will share my parallel parking story. So back when I was 16 and ready to go take my driver's test, the family, we had 2 cars. We had a station wagon, and we had a Plymouth Horizon, but it was stick shift. And while I was learning to drive it, I felt like it was too much to take my driver's test in a manual shift car. So I'm like, all right, I'll take it in the station wagon. And parallel parking a station wagon when you're a new driver is quite interesting. And the guy doing my test with me failed me because during the parallel parking, I didn't go up the curb. My tire touched the curb. And I'm like, hey, I parked this damn huge car and only touched the curb with the tire, but I got the car in there fine, and no cars were hit, nothing was, and he still failed me. So that was absolute motivation for me to get way more comfortable driving shift. Because when I went back, I was like, there's no way I'm driving. I'm not parallel parking that station wagon again. And so I did. I passed my driver's license driving a manual shift car.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. I had one time I wanted to buy a car, and 5 speeds were cheaper than automatics. So the salesman was like, I'll teach you. And I was like, I don't think so, buddy, but okay. I'm like, that's a lot of things going on at the same time. I'm not that coordinated. And sure enough, the guy put in like 40 minutes trying to drive me around Hialeah, like teach it, like, no, stop, no, do this, no, do that. He finally just gave up and he goes, I'll give you a discount on the automatic.
Ah, that's
That was
funny.
the end of it. But parallel parking was not part of the Florida driver's test. The hardest thing I had to do was a 3-point turn. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if it still is part of the driver's test, and that was a little time ago, so I don't even remember. Like, I don't know if they always made you do it or it just kind of depended on who you got as your tester or whatever. But since we're talking about learning to drive shift, I don't know why, like, especially as a kid, my dad has been known to be an intimidating man. It's not intentional, it's just his presence. And so I was afraid for him to teach me to drive shift. And so I would go out with my mom and she'd take me to, the high school parking lot, and we'd be driving around and I'd be struggling. And we'd go at another time. And finally one day she's like, I'm done. Like, if you're going to learn, your father's going to take you. And so I went out with my dad, and I don't know, he gave me like just the right cue that it clicked. Like, and I'm sure like the hours I had spent before with my mom were helpful, but it was like his one cue, and I got it like instantly. And he was like, of course.
Sure, he took all the credit too. That's funny. I will tell you the worst situation I ever got in, and I was maybe, this story has got to be, I don't know, less than 10 years, less than 10 years old. I was in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale. I wanted to go to the Alchemist. Remember the Alchemist? I don't even know. Is it still there? I don't even know. Is it? Good.
Yep.
So, and then, the parking is in that separate lot that has like these big iron thing. I don't even know, like a boat lift or so, whatever it is. Anyway, so for those listening, it is a random like workspace parking lot, but it has like these big iron structures in the middle. And then there's a fence, and then everybody kind of crams their car in wherever they can. So I pull in with my minivan. And, it's awkward. It's tight. It's like really just whatever. But I find a space. It was actually 2 spaces that were open. So I pull in it. And when I say space, I just mean like enough space for 2 cars. I don't mean like anything with a line. There was no lines. And so anyway, I park. I'm happy. No big deal. I go inside. I have my meeting, my lunch, whatever it was. When I come back out, a car had parked right next to me, like super tight, the kind of tight where you have to like squeeze into your seat. So I get into my seat. And when I tell you the feeling of claustrophobia, I felt like somebody was like squeezing my neck. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. I'll just back out. Well, somehow I have gotten myself into the tightest position I have ever been in. And it was literally turned into like a 50-point turn, because I was like, if I back out this way, I'm going to hit the car. If I back out the other way, I'm going to hit this post. And it's a steel beam. Like, it's not going anywhere. And what do? I mean, where the Alchemist is, there's 50 businesses. How do I know whose car this is? I can't walk around saying, well, the owner of a white BMW, please come get, no such thing. So I literally just went until I finally got out.
An hour later.
No, it was the most horrifying experience of my life, because I couldn't give up, because I couldn't even open the door to get out of the car. Like, if I had wanted to just quit and say, somebody else come do this, like I'm just getting out of the car. I couldn't, because I was so trapped in this tight position. Needless to say, that was my last visit to the Alchemist. I never went back. I was like, love you guys, drive through, see you later. Maybe I'll Uber something, but that was it. So yeah, I have a little bit of car anxiety that has lasted for a long time.
All right. Enough about cars and parking. Today's topic is, what is Reiki? The truth about energy healing and how it really works.
I love it.
So, and it's interesting to me because I feel like Reiki has become like the word for energy work. And so um, all the time, like people, do you do Reiki? Are you doing Reiki? Is that Reiki? And so while I have been level 2 Reiki attuned, I'm not a Reiki master, and I don't normally say that I do Reiki. But you, on the other hand, are a Reiki practitioner. So I would love for you to give me your take on Reiki. And
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same thing, to be honest. I mean, there's so much healing that has been done for centuries without a specific name, or maybe a name that didn't survive until 2025, and now we've morphed it into something else and we give that a different name, right? Like forest therapy versus forest bathing versus going for a walk in nature versus, right, all of these things are based in the same foundation, but they're each a little bit different. So Reiki, I am not one of those people that's good with like dates and names. So I'm not going to give you like Reiki 101. What I will say is that there was a particular practitioner, much like a lot of the Eastern sciences, so to speak, and figured out that, you know, vibrations, energy, frequency, all of these things could heal the body. And so they came up with a system, which frankly, it's super simple. Like the course itself. See, like I'm a course taker. I love learning. I love exploring, and I love learning, okay, what's the baseline on quote, how to do this? And then how do I make it my own? And that actually has been a really interesting evolution in my Reiki journey. So in short, the idea is that you are a channel for energy. And so you are pulling energy from the ether, from the universe through you, and passing it on to your client. So physically what it looks like is my clients come in, they lay down on my massage table, fully clothed, and I just hold my hands over them and let their energy run through them. And so it's really difficult for a lot of folks to see it as something quote real, because it's not, you're not being physically touched. Right now you can choose to have hands put on you, that's fine, but traditionally it's not, it's more about hovering. But it's hard to see it unless you experience it. And what I tell people is like, think of the love and the energy that you feel when you're just close to a loved one, right? Or like when you go to lay in bed and you know that your partner is next to you, even if you're not touching your partner, there is an energy exchange there, you know? Recently, I did a Reiki session for someone here, and she talked about she had never had a Reiki session before, really just needed to, you know, was curious about the experience, didn't have anything in particular that she wanted to like in pain or work on or whatever. And we did the session, and it's about 45 minutes, you know, and there's some music playing and stuff like that. And at the end of it, I said, okay, is there anything you'd like to share? How was your experience? And she said, you know, I've had this like pain in my neck since I was little, like my whole life. And she goes, when your hands were close to my neck, what I felt was that pain like suddenly activated, like really painfully. And then it went down my arm. And she goes, and I felt it leave out of my fingertips. And then I didn't feel it again for the rest of the session. So to me, it's little evidence like that that shows me that there is absolutely something to, you know, energy healing. And I want to hear what it looks like for you, because, you know, Reiki has specific hand movements and specific things that you might want to recite and things like that. But at the end of the day, I see it as energy healing, you know? So how does it show up for you in your sessions?
so I will share a little bit of like the history and how I came to energy work. You know, so my background is physical therapy, and you know, back in 1991, when I started practicing, I worked at a hospital that had over 50 therapists on staff. And very early on, like, people started requesting me to be their therapist. And in my head, I'm like, I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing. Why do they want me? They have all of these people that have, up to 25 years experience to choose from. Why would they want me? And also, when we worked with people in the hospital, like, a lot of times it was just about getting them out of bed, getting them moving so that they weren't atrophying and, could walk when they left the hospital. And so, staff would have their, like, regular, like, this is who you're seeing, who you're working with. But then on the weekends, we didn't all work on the weekends. So we left notes for whoever was covering the weekend, like, what to do. And so typically would be, Mr. Jones walks 100 feet with a rolling walker with min assist. And so on Monday, I'd come back to work and the person covering would be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, it took 2 of us, max assist, to walk this guy 10 feet. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, in my mind, I'd be like, oh my God, did Mr. Jones have a stroke over the weekend? Like, what's going on? And so I'd go up and see him and we'd go and take our, 100 feet walk with min assist. And I'd be like, I don't understand what's going on here, because, like, clearly he walked what I said he walked, but they couldn't do that with him. And, like, it took me a really long time to figure this out, but I was actually, hey, we got a listener who, this is the first time they're commenting. Hi, Chris Baker. Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. But, so it was actually at a John Barnes myofascial release course years later. You who like courses. So these PT courses, the teacher's up there doing a demo, then you pair up with someone and you practice what they were teaching. And so, myofascial release is a very hands-on technique. And so, and they encouraged us to pair up with someone different each time. So we're experiencing different people, different bodies. And so I do, whatever it was we were instructed to do on the person, and they'd be like, oh my God, that was so cool. And then they do it on me and they'd be like, how was it? And I'm like, well, it felt like you were doing what he was demonstrating. Like, there was no, this is so cool. And finally, on the last day in the afternoon, like, I pair up with this other woman and she's working on me. And I was like, I had that, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I had that, like, instant awareness, like, oh, some people have cool in their hands and some people, and I do believe this is something that we all have, but like anything, some of us are just more natural at it than others. And so I just had that aha moment that all along I had been working with energy. That was what was helping my patients walk better. That was what was making people request me. But it wasn't like an awareness. But so, okay, now all of a sudden I have an awareness that energy is involved here. And so I started diving into all the different energy, quantum touch, Barbara Brennan's Hands of Light, Reiki, whatever. And so it was great, like, collecting the information from these people. But what I found for myself was, when I tried to do what someone else was describing to do, it actually limited my ability to work with the energy. And so, when you mentioned making it your own, like, I already had my own, but it helped provide, like, the information that it was, like, it was real. It was something that was actually happening. And so yes, I work with the energy. And I always say, like, when people ask me that question, do you work with energy? I'm like, we're all working with energy all the time. It's just, do you have an awareness of it or not? And the more awareness that you have, the more directive you can be with it and the more you can do with it than if it's just happening on a non-intentional conscious level. I do also want to comment on the other thing that you spoke about, that, like, essentially you're channeling the universal energy, because that's one of the other questions that I get all the time is, like, aren't you exhausted at the end of the day, like, using all your energy? And it's like, but I'm not using my energy. why would I use my limited energy when there's an infinite source of energy available to all of us? And I think that's an important distinction for so many people. And the people that are getting exhausted, it's like, you need to tune in and check and like, don't use your energy. Like, you need that.
Yeah.
But there's this infinite source available to all of us. And that's the energy that you use to do the work.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, because you're exactly right. Like, I could spend 3 hours, 4 hours sitting at my desk, answering phone calls, doing things like that, and I'm exhausted. But I could spend 2 hours. The other day I did 2 Reiki sessions back to back. I think it was like 2.5 hours altogether, by the, soup to nuts. And I always, at the end of a Reiki session, feel energized. I always say, like, this is probably too weird to say out loud, but whatever, we're here. But I swear, for like 5 minutes after the session, my vision is perfect. Like, I wear glasses. And it's just weird little things like that I'm like, man, I feel so like alive after a session. And really, if you look at it, there's nothing. It's not like my heart rate doesn't go up. It's not running. It's not lifting weights. It's not something that you would say, like, get your energy up, by being very physical. It's quite the opposite. By calming everything down and focusing that awareness, that is the energy, and it shows up in such subtle and beautiful and different ways. My client, another little feedback that she gave was like, when your hands were like over my face, it was so hot, super, super hot. Like, I could feel all this heat, but then when you physically touched, I don't know, whatever, her ears or something or whatever, she was like, your hands are freezing, and it was like, and even me, as I go over the body, I'm feeling hot and cold and different things. And you can, and I agree 1,000%. And I think you said it beautifully. Like, every single human being has all of these abilities, right? There are some people that when you hug them, you just feel better. And there are some people that they walk into the room and you already feel like, uh-oh, something's wrong, right? And all of that is the harness and the movement of energy. That's how I'm seeing it. For me, and I don't know if like the official Reiki people would sanction the way that I do Reiki. But I really enjoy having that baseline. Like I said, that foundation. There's a lot of the tools that I use, and that, yes, is quote called Reiki, but adding in specific musical instruments, or adding in particular music. Like, I don't play that soft little massage music. I play native inspired music, and that's just what has called to me from day one. I don't think I've ever done a Reiki session with just that quiet little massage music that everybody uses, at the spa. But I think it's cool that you can make it your own. I know one practitioner that she actually goes outside and brings in leaves and sticks and she crackles them next to your ear, like, it can be whatever you want that to be, and we're all doing it. And I wish we could, tune in more and more and more, but it absolutely takes a conscious effort. Like, I wasn't born aware of the impact of energy. I barely paid attention to it, and teaching myself and learning these learning and talking to other people that are doing Reiki and things like that, it just makes such a huge difference. So yeah, I mean, get to know yourself, really. That's my biggest advice.
And I think what you said, talking about, not born knowing how to do this, but we all are born with this ability, and children are so much more tuned in because they haven't been tainted by life. But this is one of those things, like, I feel like it should be taught, instead of like when kids are, 3 years old, trying to teach them how to read and do math, like, teach them how to run energy. And it will be so easy for them at that age. And then they will just have this skill going forward. I go crazy sometimes about the things that, like, we should be taught when we're kids, as opposed to what we're actually teaching them. And so if you're a mom out there with little kids, like, let's teach them how to work with energy, and they will grow up to be far happier, skillful, well-adjusted adults. And yeah.
Yeah, I am seeing a lot of mindfulness practices come into schools, it's not super widespread, but you do hear success stories where like a certain school, and I forget where it is, but instead of doing detention as a punishment, they created like mindfulness after school. Okay, you got in trouble for doing XYZ in class. Instead of coming to a detention where it's all negative, 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 they taught them how to meditate. And so you see these, fourth graders sitting there crisscross, meditating. I mean, to me, meditation, calming, being in control of, your emotions, being mindful, awareness. Oh my gosh, you could solve so much of the world's problems. And there's such tiny little things. Like that's the other thing, right? Because it's not part of our school curriculum, it sounds like something woo-woo and something crazy and something like, I don't have time to be mindful. I can't pay my bills with mindful. I got to go make money. But you make so much more money when you're mindful, right? You become so much better at the job that you're doing and the service that you're providing when you are aware, when you are mindful, when you are paying attention. It's just, I don't know. If you were to ask me the biggest thing I've ever done for my business, it's that awareness. It's that mindfulness. It's, working on myself.
Well, and I also want to say, because you were talking woo, and the science is catching up to all of this. Like, there was a time when, so the acupuncture meridians are the energy highways of our body. And, for thousands and thousands of years, people were like, there's no proof, there's no, and the science has been able to find them and map them and go like, oh yeah, they really do exist, And, I look at like Joe Dispenza, doing all of his research on the meditation and, which these are all just forms of energy, well, because everything is energy, but, finally being able to map out and, show the research that proves that it exists, that it's working. And so for all of those people like needing proof, it's not woo. There is proof out there, and there are plenty of studies that show it. So if the thing that's holding you back is like science hasn't proved it, it's not real. Science has actually proven it, and it is real. And just look out there and see your sources, if that's what you need to be able to tap into this. But, ooh, we lost Graciela, but I will stay here and say that, Einstein, Tesla, all of the great scientists spoke of energy, and that everything is energy. And so learning in and tapping into that is, it is real. So anyway, I don't know if we're going to get Graciela back this morning, but I will say thank you all for tuning in. If you're local and you want to start learning more about using, oh, here she is back. Yay! Whoops. I was like, she disappeared. Where'd she go?
Sorry, mountain Wi-Fi.
We have a listener here saying, I believe in Reiki.
Yes, and, Reiki believes in you, Suzanne.
There we go. But what I was just sharing while we were waiting for you to come back is that once a month I do have something that I call the Healing Circle, and it's really about empowering people to take a more active role in their healing. And I think Western medicine has programmed us to believe that like we go to the doctor and they fix us. And I'm not going to go down that path today because I don't have a lot of nice things to say there. But the truth is, oh, I love this. Suzanne is about to write a book on Reiki with testimonials from Reiki practitioners. Beautiful. Let us know when it's out and we'll check it out, Susan. But what I was going to say is that, like, the true healing, like, even if I'm doing energy work on you, you are the person healing. I'm not healing you. You are healing you. And so the healing circle that I do is really about you learning how to take a more active role in healing yourself and taking your power back there. And one of the things with Reiki is they teach you to do Reiki on yourself. And so the cobbler has no shoes. Those of us that work as healers, I think most of us are guilty of not spending as much time working on ourselves and healing ourselves. But when you start working with energy and understand that you have the power to heal you, and it is just intention and tuning in and being aware. And so I really, want to encourage you. Reiki energy work is accessible to everyone. If you have questions about it or interest in it, reach out. We can help connect you there. And what final thoughts do you have, Ms. Graciela?
Well, before I accidentally dropped off and fell off the air here, I heard you say Joe Dispenza. So I'm not sure what you got to say about it, but so if I repeat myself, just consider it a really important point. But if you guys, and you might even be able to find this online for free somewhere or borrow it from somebody, but if you look at the book Becoming Supernatural and you just read the first chapter, just read chapter 1. If you read that, you will read the most incredible story that you would call miraculous. Someone that became so ill and where they are today. And there are so many stories like that. And what I really want to share is we all have these abilities, and it's not as hard as it looks. So I know for me, whenever I see someone do something really incredible that I think, oh, there's no way I could do that, my brain automatically looks for the reasons why I can't do those things, right? I can't do it because I have kids that I have to run around, or I can't do it because I have my own business and I'm too busy, or I can't do it because, and believe me, I have like 50,000 excuses for all the things that I can't do. But energy work, healing, all of these things, it's not as hard as it looks. It's special. It's different. You definitely require an awareness. Definitely people that have been practicing it for a long time are going to be better at it than you, but you can do it. And all you need to do is hang out with people that can do it, and you will learn, and you will absolutely change your life, which changes your business, which changes your relationships, which changes your lifestyle. It changes everything. From how you see the world directly around you, how you see the universe, how you see the leaves outside. So yeah, give yourself the opportunity to really see. Yeah, I love that.
Yay. Well, this was a fun show talking about Reiki. And, if you have questions, reach out, and we'd love to. Here's Chris. I like his little comment here. Consistently keep bringing that positive energy into your life. You are loved. Chris himself is a powerful healer too. And but again, reach out. We would love to hear your stories. And it's funny too, like when you get talking about the energy stories, like there's people that have like no connection to the healing world and the world of energy, but they do have energy stories, those miraculous little moments. Like, this happened to me one time. And so be open to the magic, and it will show up in your life. So, all right. I think that's a wrap. And
yeah, and don't forget our retreat. Come check it out. Lots and lots of energy in those spaces for sure.
Oh my goodness, yes. All right. Well, I want to wish you all a magical day, everyone.
Bye.